be seen over now. Scroll down to the bottom and get ready for the game. And welcome back, everyone, to game number 2 in this Australian Open tournament, game 2. Oh, sorry, group 2 rather, round 1. And I didn't see that. Easier to see when you aren't playing. Yeah, of course, it's much easier to see. Everything's obvious with the benefit of hindsight. But welcome back, everyone, to the second game in this best of 5 series between SirLaurenceNZ and Flatch. We saw in the previous game that Flatch took the victory. I would say, oh crap, here we go. Took the victory somewhat convincingly, I guess. I mean, Lawrence, to be fair, he did fight pretty hard, but it was always going to be a little bit of a difficult situation once he lost his main base to come back from. And now Lawrence looking to come back with a bit of a vengeance. Non-stop Aussie commentator. Not Australian. Please time him out. And here we go. Sir Lawrence deciding to go for his home map, which I believe looks like to be Team Islands. And, well, Islands, same. Actually, it's not the same thing at all. But I was talking to him before the game, and he was saying that he had been practicing his Grush build, which is why I sort of thought we might be seeing a bit of a Grush build from him in the previous game, since it was Coastal. But maybe he got a little bit confused with his strategy choices, and he sort of went for nothing. Essentially, he walled up and just did absolutely nothing with it, and it put him back a little bit too much, in my opinion. But here we go. He's on Islands, so he should be able to see whether or not he is going for a Grush map, or rather a Grush build, and see how well his Grush build actually is. So over to the west of the map, playing in the blue, we have SirLaurenceNZ playing as the Vikings. Obviously, we have a water map, so Vikings going to be the natural choice, since they are... not even arguably, they just are the strongest water civilization in Age of Conquerors. And over to the east of the map, playing in the red, we have Flatch. Sorry, hang on. Playing in the red, we have SirLaurenceNZ. My mistake. Over to the west, we have Flatch playing in the blue. And over to the east, we have, in the red, playing as the Vikings as well, SirLaurenceNZ. And we can see a little bit of Kiwi comebacks hoping for in the chat. And I'm not allowed to say anything because I'm not allowed to be biased, but a Kiwi comeback would be nice. Yes, this is AOC. Why not HD? Because HD is crap for tournaments. Spectating options on HD are just absolutely terrible. They don't have the overlay, and it's just so much easier to spectate and cast and hold tournaments on Conquerors. And you can also see down the bottom here where it says Conquerors. The Conquerors doesn't say HD. So we can see that both of the players now throwing up their first stocks at around about the same time. Good timings on both of these stocks as well. Now let's have a look at Fletch's dock. Now his dock, really, really unfortunate. I like the fact that he has gone for the aggressive forward dock, because it means that, or it implies that he is going to be going a little bit aggressive with his play, and I really, really like to see that. I don't like the, well, personally, I don't really like the, I don't like the passive sort of defensive games, so I really, really, really like the aggressive play here, or the aggressive play style on the dock. I don't like the dock position in the fact that he's got absolutely no deep fish around him. He's got this one up here, but that is definitely not an efficient... that's definitely not anything worthwhile or worth mentioning. Whereas Lawrence's dock, I really, really like his one a lot better. It's not as forward, it's not as aggressive as his opponents, but that's totally fine, because Lawrence may be wanting to play a little bit more passively. Who won the first game? You should be able to see from the... oh, that's a spectator. Never mind! I need to turn that off. Lawrence's dock is going to give him a nice access to some deep fish out here as well, and potentially give him a little bit of a more defensible position if he doesn't get up to the feudal age as quickly as his opponent in terms of galley numbers, since he should be able to use the defender's advantage to be able to pull it back. Now, if we just have a quick look at the islands here, again, I like the island. I don't know. I like the fact that Lawrence's island is really big and fat, because it means that there's a higher chance that a lot of his resources are going to be inland and not able to be harassed from the water. But in saying that, most of his resources are harassable from the water, even though he does have a fat island. This gold here, harassable. Stone, not so harassable, so that's fine. This gold here, once you get into the Imperial Age and get Bracer and all those good sorts of upgrades along with Galleon, that's going to be harassable as well. His woodline is getting awfully close to the shoreline. It's not going to be nice. It's not going to be in a good position for him, as opposed to Fletcher's map over here to the west, where he does have, again, he's got a skinnier map. You'd be thinking, hey, maybe it would be able to it would maybe be able to be a lot more harassable, but his gold's pretty well his gold's pretty well solid, or pretty well safe inside these at the toward the center of his map here. His woodline, again, that's still going to be harassable from the shoreline, from the coastline, but it'll be interesting to see how this one does play out. So SirLaurenceNZ clicking up to the feudal age. He's going to be up. It's not the quickest time I think any of us have seen, but for us noobs, that is a really, really nice uptime for a Grush. It'll be interesting to see what Flatch does. He has decided to go for this really, really efficient deep sea fish out here. So it will be interesting to see how Lawrence does decide to do this. He's going for an unorthodox 5 fishing ships. The greedy, greedy boy. Oh my goodness, please don't tell me he's adding more. No, he's not adding more, that's fine. So with his Grush build, it looks like, the initial Dark Age build is pretty solid, pretty okay. I don't see any villagers going out to gold, so that's a little bit of a mistake. Although in saying that, no, we see another builder here. This guy here is probably going to help out, build another dock. Yeah, we can finally see the lumber camp, the mining camp coming up. Maybe a little bit late. He has gone up on 22 villages. Flatch on 20 villages actually, so he's somewhat behind, unless this is actually taken into account. No, that's not taken into account. Anyway, Fletch is a little bit behind, and Lawrence throwing up at second and third dock, maybe a little bit late, but he's going to be in a really, really good position here to really start putting some pressure on his opponent. Fletch as well, chucking up an extra dock after having lured in a couple of deer, and 3 docks apiece for both of these players. Of course, Flatch is not going to be, he's going to be at a disadvantage since the galley numbers are going to be coming out thick and fast, hopefully, for Sir Lawrence, although I do fail to see a second lumber camp for Lawrence, and I do also fail to see double bit axe coming in as well. Why don't they just land with transport instead of going navy? They could do, but water control in islands is very, very important, because we saw it in the previous game where Lawrence had no land economy. He had a shite ton of fish and he still managed to keep himself more or less in the game. If you do decide, it could be a nice surprise attack as well if you do go over and transport, but it can quite easily be scouted out in the early stages of the game. For example, Lawrence would be sending over a galley to try and scout out the docks, and if he only sees or if he sees one dock or no docks from his opponent, he might be thinking, hey, something's going on, something a bit fishy is happening. So then he'll be able to set up his economy in preparation for a landing. You're right, the islands are dead close, yep, but at the same time your economy is just not as strong. There are no Dark Age transports either. But if you do mean in the feudal age, once you get to the feudal age, and if you have map control, if you have water control, then it's a little bit harder to try and pull off those transport or those landings as well. And if the landing fails, if the landing doesn't pay out, your economy is not really strong enough to bounce back, and now you don't have water control. So in that respect, it is really an all-in sort of thing. Although Lawrence is not quite doing the best, not quite doing the best sort of way. He's not scouting very well at all. He hasn't found his opponent. He hasn't found his opponent's docks. Sure, he's ahead on military for the time being, but we saw Flatch was up on 4 docks. Lawrence only up on 3. So Flatch is going to be able to start pulling ahead in galley numbers as well, and that little advantage that Lawrence had at the beginning of the game is now starting to ebb away just a little bit. Yeah, horrible scouting for red. It was not the greatest at all, but it looks like Lawrence is going to reset his gather points, and he should be in a good position to be able to push back this initial push here from Flatch. A little bit sloppy there, but from Lawrence getting a few free hits on those galleys, but we can see that he's paying enough attention to be able to pull them out of harm's way as well. And the other thing to mention as well is that the food economy here, these fishing ships on an islands map, the fishing ships and the food economy that the fishing ships provide for you is just so important. And Lawrence having the access to the better deep fish, not that he's using them with more than half of his friggin' fishing ships here, he's moving back to, he's going to be able to pull ahead quite significantly in economy based on the fact that he does have access to better fish. We can see the blacksmith now coming up for Lawrence as well. Blacksmith having been done and fletching on the way for Flatch. So in saying that, and saying all of that jargon, all that crap that I was saying just before about Lawrence having a better economy because of his fish, not really paying too much dividends at all in this respect, as he is getting fletching just a little bit later than his opponent. But it shouldn't matter. He is still heavily outnumbering his opponent in terms of galleys. They're just not all in the position that they need to be. The caster is not answering your questions because the caster is casting. And there you go. Let's improve getting a nice hug. Some really nice galley micro here. Trying to move, duck, dive, dip, dodge, and all that sort of stuff back and forth. And Lawrence, no casualties as of yet. Still no casualties as of yet. But Lawrence still managing to take Yeah, well, the chat's answering my questions, so that's fine. Lawrence managing to pick off the fishing ships, and this is a huge, huge disadvantage for Flatch at the moment. His fishing ships really were the only thing that was keeping his economy going. He does have some berry gatherers. He's got one farm, but Lawrence is starting to push this back and back and back. And if he keeps reinforcing like he is with all these galleys, he's going to be in a really nice position to take this game, in my opinion. Throwing up a fourth dock is Sir Lawrence at the front of his base, or at the in this wee channel point here as well. And Lawrence needs to not get too greedy here. Still no casualties actually, which is quite interesting, at least on this. The ratings like 1400 maybe, something like that. Bit of lag between these players. Classic. That's got to be the Australian causing the lag. That's got to be the Australians causing lag. Always the Australians. Lawrence is oversaturating the crap out of his berry bushes just to bring that into account. And here we go. We can see a bit of a scuffle now coming in between these two players. And am I missing any sort of landings or anything like that? It certainly doesn't look like I am, especially since I was just looking at the galley numbers or the military numbers, and Lawrence is really ahead. And it doesn't seem like he has all that many in the fight. But in saying that, the fight is going on now. Lawrence getting some nice trades. 9 military units ahead. I don't know if you can post links. You can try. And if you can't, then you can get Pyro to do it, and he should be able to. Lawrence is going to be in a really nice position to start taking this fight to Flatch if he continues to start, or if he continues to if he continues to push this back. Although he does have quite a few low HP galleys here, and the same can be said of Flatch as well. Lawrence needs to start taking some fights. He's got the advantage. They both got Fletching. No one has actually gone up. Obviously no one's gone up to the castle edge yet, and Lawrence is in a really nice position. His economy balance is a lot nicer in terms of that. Yeah, it turns out you can post links. His economy balance is a lot nicer. He's getting a lot closer to the castle edge, and that's just on account of the fact that he does have 5 fishing ships working overtime at the back of his base here. And again, Flatch, his fishing ships initially were really inefficient. He had really crap fish, and he's also now got none of them left at all. So Lawrence is going to be in a really nice position to click up to the castle edge very soon, assuming that his market comes up. His market's coming up. It'll be interesting to see if he goes for the sell buy option, but it doesn't look like he'll have to. Maybe buy a little bit of extra food to get himself up nice and early, and then he would be able to pull out of this fight, or maybe continue to take it. It will be interesting to see how this goes. Horse collar coming in, and they're not coming in for Flatch, obviously deciding he doesn't want to go for that at all. Starting to seed a lot of farms as Flatch. No farms having been thrown down for Sir Lawrence yet, relying on that economy that is being supplemented from his fishing ships. And here we go, Lawrence buying food and clicking up to the castle edge, and again, this could be Lawrence's game. This is not a fight that he should be taking, though. The military numbers are starting to pull in just a little bit, and that's a consequence, unfortunately, of clicking up to the castle age. You sink some resources into clicking up to the castle age, and it just doesn't leave. Oh, that hurts. That hurts so much. That's a terrible patrol for Lawrence, and just like that, he's lost 2, 3, 4 galleys, and that is huge. A 5th dock coming up for him now as well, and we should be able to see that a crap ton of galleys should be coming out to supplement this. Lawrence should not be taking this fight. He doesn't want to lose any more galley numbers than necessary, but of course Flatch doesn't recognize the situation, and he doesn't see that Lawrence has clicked up to the castle age. Obviously his score usually is a very nice indicator of having clicked up, but Fletcher's score is just that far behind at this point in time that I guess he isn't really paying too much attention to that at all. And we can see that Lawrence now just should be biding his time once he gets up to the castle age, and this is where all the action is, right here. Just chilling in the center of the space. A dot coming up, a dot going down. No, that was a dot going down. So Lawrence, 5 docks to 2, and I think once the castle age upgrade comes in, it could be all over for Flatch. He's nowhere near the castle age imbalanced economy. Could be selling and buying some food here. A lot of low HP galleys here. He's outnumbered in terms of military. He's soon going to be out-teched. Lawrence even throwing up an outpost, recognizing the situation and thinking, hey, my opponent has lost water now. This is me. This is all me. I've got water all day. And he's unfortunately getting his villager killed, which is a bit shitty for him. But he's going to be able to have the tech advantage very soon. We should be able to see War Galley coming in, Bodkin Arrow coming in as well now, and this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for Lawrence to take the fight and really decisively take control of water. Then he can supplement his food income really nicely with a lot of fishing ships. And here we go, the big fight about to come in for Lawrence. Hopefully he gets a nice patrol. Flatch advancing to the castle edge, so maybe Flatch isn't isn't completely out. Branching off is Lawrence. Oh, Lawrence has to patrol. That's absolutely terrible. The timing, not so great. But once War Galley comes in, he should still be in an okay position to be able to take this fight. And here we go. This is going to be the fight that Lawrence needs. This is going to start pushing Flatch back a heck of a lot, and I like the decision from Lawrence to start branching out and patrolling his galleys around the shoreline from Flatch, because this is hopefully going to stop Flatch from putting up any other docks in any other locations around his shore, which means that Lawrence is going to be in a really, really nice position economically, since he will have the fish advantage over his opponent. It seems that ballistics might be a really nice upgrade for Lawrence to do here. Although that was a nice snipe on the villager, taking down the dock, and Lawrence having a wee chuckle to himself in the chat. Maddie's channel sucks. Oh, that's fine. So Lawrence having a nice... yeah, there we go. There's the GG. Lawrence choosing his home map and coming out on top. Really, really nice decision from him, in my opinion. And we can see that the victory has now come in for Sir Lawrence. So all of the Kiwis in the chat wanting a Kiwi victory have now been satisfied. So Lawrence taking that game really nicely. His home map really, really good. Really good choice from him. So well done, Lawrence, for taking that game.